and see. Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could save Trinbago. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could save Trinbago. Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could fix Trinbago. Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could save Trinbago. Is billions gone from we treasury? A tax-paying man can get nothing for free. Is billions gone from we treasury? A tax-paying man can get nothing for free. Trinidad and Tobago, please open your eye, 'cause the truth in your face, Crowley could only lie. Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could save Trinbago. Look, Crowley give us promises to the sky, but I support in you and sit.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. Sorry about that, but of course, of the tardiness tonight, but it was due to circumstances beyond my control. And I want to tell you, of course, in spite of that, the level of commitment, the level of dedication, and of course, the patriotism that resides, of course, in the corridor transformation, its concept and its ideology, as well as, of course, the programs that we deliver on a nightly basis, except on a Friday. A pleasant good night to all and sundry, therefore, East, West, North, South, Central, or Friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Have a wonderful time tonight, and yes, indeed, it's only Kamla could save Trinbago.
Oh, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. It's only Kamla could save Trinbago. Is billions gone from we treasury? A tax-paying man can get nothing for free. Is billions gone from we treasury? A tax-paying man can get nothing for free. Trinidad and Tobago, please open your eye, 'cause the truth in your face, Crowley could only lie. Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go.
Yes, indeed, of course, just to reiterate, because I know that we just got on to the Facebook page, of course, YouTube would have gotten, of course, the original, should I say, introduction. So let me reintroduce. Welcome, of course, excuse my tardiness. It was due to circumstances beyond my control. But of course, welcome to the Sunday edition of the Corridor Transformation. Your host, Lennox Smith. A pleasant good night, therefore, to East, West, North, South, Central in Trinidad, or friends in Tobago. And wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, indeed, we will normally have what is considered to be a very intriguing, as well as, of course, informative, and indeed, decision-making ultimately that resides, of course, in your own fingers to, of course, make certain that not time for Rowley and them to go, but they must have gone already. But it's just a matter of time.
Kamla Persad-Bissessar, look, now is the time for Crowley to go. There's only Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to you once again, of course.
Time to go, time to go, time to go, it's time to go. Look, now is the time for Crowley to go. There's only
To you, the featured speaker of the night, the first female Attorney General, the best Minister of Education in this country's history, the first female political leader of a major party, the first female and the best Prime Minister this country has ever seen, the first female leader of the opposition, and soon to be the first female to return to Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
Should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now.
Yes, people, of course, I thought it was important, of course, after all the sour faces that we had during the week, and of course, to watch Rowley alone, I mean, it's as if, of course, you are in a horror movie and story, and therefore I thought I should conclude this weekend with Kamla Persad-Bissessar, a beautiful, considerate, people-centered, humane, and indeed a very, what I consider, developed and accomplished, not just spokesperson, not just diplomat, not just an individual that has grown as far as her diplomacy is concerned, congenial, etc., etc. Let's hear what she has to say to, of course, the national community at one of her public appearances.
I heard some of you on the way up, and that level of energy is tremendous. We have come from a very dark year, last year, 2024. And now we enter this new year, 2025. We are into 2025. And I want to tell you, and we will now forward together triumphantly into 2025 to win this election. So Happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year. So top of the news. Okay. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you so much. Today, the PNM replaced a lazy, greedy, selfish old man with a equally lazy, greedy, selfish young man as his leader. And they did their best, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris impression, by undemocratically appointing, anointing, handpicking a successor to the prime ministership. And just like Biden and Kamala Harris, they're going to get licking of their lives in this general election. So Rowley will leave as prime minister without a single achievement in his name. In 10 years, Prime Minister, other years in politics, this man has created nothing. He has built nothing. He has developed nothing. He leaves a legacy instead of death and destruction. He leaves debt owing money. He leaves a legacy of failure, a legacy of oppression, laziness, greed, bullying, and incompetence. That is his legacy of this person.
Well, of course, I want to add, it's two types of debt here. The debt where you're owing, of course, Kamla Persad-Bissessar mentioned that debt. You're owing, and therefore the country is owing over $90 billion, and counting, of course, quite apart from what they take out from the Heritage and Civilization Fund, and what they have withdrawn through our, what is called our reserves. They met it, of course, at around $10 to $12 billion US are talking about. It is now down to 4. So we are certainly closer to being a candidate for the IMF. In spite of their old talk, in spite of their platitudes, and in spite of their hoodwinking attempts by the people, because the people have been saturated. It is now ad nauseum that the nonsense that they speak, when of course the economy is teetering, of course, on the brink of disaster, if not already there, and it's just a matter of hitting the floor, so to speak, as it is typically expressed in what is called in pugilistic exercises. Are talking about boxing, when of course you knock them out. So we cannot, of course, afford Rowley and because that kind of mama guy and want to stay in office and continue, of course, to insult our individual and collective intelligence. As I said, of course, the pugilistic individuals will only have no choice but to knock them out because they shame to lie down. Pugilists, yes. So therefore, let's continue, of course, with Kamla, because apart from that debt, DEBT, yeah, DEAT, the debt in terms of physical non-existence, extinction. Yeah. So let us not fool ourselves in understanding that there is a double debt. Of course, Kamla spoke of the DEBT, that is, of course, owing money, but they have been guilty. Rowley, Dial Singh, Hines, and the whole cabinet of physical killing of our people, one way or another, whether in the Ministry of Health, babies, and of course COVID, and then of course national security in terms of over 600 murders. So therefore, let us not waste time and call a spade a spade. But let's continue, of course, with Kamla Persad-Bissessar as she continues, of course, to give a review of the performance of this government, even though it is 1 year she is focusing on, but certainly it is a microcosm of what has transpired over the last 10 years.
Who has built nothing, created nothing, and developed nothing. I see them going to turnkey and open places. And Dr. Munira, those are things we built. Those are things that we did in our term. They want to take credit, but they're so incompetent that they cannot follow through with the implementation. So that is where Rowley and Stewart have many similarities. Stewart also has the same legacy for his 10 years in government. He's Minister of Everything, who has achieved nothing. Minister of Communications failed at that ministry. Minister of National Security, God, failed. And then he was, as I said, national security, the crime, the murders continued to escalate. Minister of Energy, he destroyed the oil and gas sector. He was outsmarted every time with the multinationals. Remember, they went up to Houston and say they were the best salesmen. They were snake oil salesmen. Because at the end of the day, they collapsed the energy sector. The manner in which Rowley has now taken this minion and foisted him onto our great country is the most tainted he is, despised member of his cabinet. This is an affront to the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago. It is a move that emulates the patterns after very infamous dictators worldwide. Some of you are young like me and will remember when the late Venezuelan president Hugo Chavez, he picked up Nicolas Maduro as a successor. And it led to the collapse of Venezuela and their democracy. It was long evident, it came as no surprise, that Stuart Young, a vulgar politician, idiot, who was Rowley's Emailgate lawyer just a decade ago, and was given a safe PNM seat in 2015, that is Rowley's preferred replacement. Like a typical dictator, Rowley has shown no regard for the rule of law, no regard for democratic processes, no regard for his own members, far less for us who are not his members. So what he's done, he went ahead with his very devious scheme to install his hand-picked puppet to enable him, Rowley, to continue controlling this country and the PNM through his retirement, he calls it. Rides off into the sunset with $1 million back pay, with a 47% increase in his salaries.
Yes, of course, we will normally pause, of course, to go and take your calls, of course, and that is always a priority. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the Corridor Transformation.
Well, Lennox, not a pleasant good night to you and everybody on the live. I don't want to stay too long.
Go ahead,
Lennox,
my friend. Yes.
Tomorrow, please, the Lord Trump will be sworn in as president, right?
Repeat that for me. Repeat that.
If Donald Trump will be sworn in as president of the United States tomorrow, please, the Lord.
Tomorrow, yes.
Right. So right now, we work cut out. We have to submit as much information as we can to Donald Trump. Let's start looking into this PNM government.
That is on the way. That is on the way. And of course, I don't believe we should put it in the realm of speculation. But out of an abundance of caution, I want to say that Rowley's departure, proposed departure, and in conditions, of course, that are inhospitable to the constitution of the PNM in particular. I want to say because of the advent of Donald Trump. Remember, Donald Trump didn't want to see any part of he. And of course, the Democrats embraced him, and he was able, of course, to manipulate even the Democrats to get in their favor. But now that he realized that the hostility will now rightfully be upon him, he decides, of course, to give up, and like a typical backside, Stuart Young seemed to have embraced it, but of course he would want to enter where angels fear, and of course that is where we are at this point. It's going to be fireworks. So go ahead, my friend.
Right now, that is all I wanted was to
okay,
say.
Yes.
Right,
Donald Trump will be in
all
tomorrow.
The documents and submitted to him.
Yes.
Right,
my friend. Yes, indeed. Yes, people. What is the true reason for Rowley's departure, sudden departure? There were no indications that he wanted to, even though, of course, he would have told us that, but we know it was glib talk, we know it was superficial, we know it was superfluous, because he said it before the 2020 elections. And of course, on the date of what I consider to be hollow victory, hollow in every sense, I don't want to use the term fake victory. I don't want to use the term election stealing, but I will say hollow victory. Hollow in a real sense, because whilst they can argue that, of course, they got the majority of the seats in our first past the post system and will not take all philosophy or concept, what they cannot deny is the fact that the victory was hollow. it was hollow from the point of view they went in with 23 seats and came out in 2020 with 22 seats. And today, of course, they only have 21. Yet still, this lame duck government, this, of course, a group of individuals who clearly have, of course, overstayed their welcome by the people of Trinidad and Tobago, continues, of course, to impose themselves, while, of course, the party itself implodes. And, of course, they juggle for positions in, of course, in what I consider to be an extremely volatile and, of course, in a Kobo-like manner. They continue to pick away at the political carcass that is, of course, the PNM, and, of course, its misery, and, of course, disappointment, and, of course, the people's anathema, the people's hatred against them. But yet still, they in our faces. But as certain as day gives way to night and vice versa, and as constant as the Northern Star, and as immutable as a cent, blue lights and silver bracelets for this entire cabinet. It doesn't matter who is at the helm, will prevail. Will prevail. But let's go back, of course, to Kamla Persad-Bissessar as she gives her review of this government. And it's only, of course, for 2024, but certainly one can identify, one can, of course, associate with that assessment to be the last, without fear of contradiction, for the last 10 years of the rowdy, evil, diabolical, wicked, and, of course, senseless, and, of course, insensitive government.
It's like, you know, the ship is sinking, and this man jump on a lifeboat, but he makes sure and fill his pockets first. So, Stuart Young now has also failed at every post he has held in government. As I said, national security, energy. He's the architect of our country's most failed and disastrous energy policies. Look at Point Lisas. I listened to Mr. Rowley in one of his press briefings, and he said that his greatest legacy is in the energy sector and Point Lisas. Imagine that. How many plants have shut down in Point Lisas? How many have fled and run away? And he comes that as a legacy, this man living in La La Land. He's living in a fantasy world. He has no legacy. The only legacy that he has is one for death and destruction and destroying our economy. So here's Young now. His Gary Sober is his gopher. I don't know what that gopher holds in that bag when he's toting it. Yeah, well, that's another story. It's a different kind of Gary Sobers. And here now, we have this Minister of Energy being handpicked and anointed. I want you all to remember this now. What goes on in the PM, that is their business. But you must respect the democracy and the rule of law. And we should not stomach someone hand-picking out his gopher to name him his successor. This man's family links to drug dealing. You remember that? His daughter, stepdaughter, is before the courts on serious criminal charges, Wayne. Serious charges for 15 million in cocaine and marijuana. This should automatically disqualify Stuart Young from any major role in public life. The PNM selected a man with drug-dealing family members to lead them. And then you'll see another link, a family link again, linked the Rowley governments, these schemes, with family ties again. The fact that Young's brother, his company, remember that? NCB Global Finance was given state funds, you know how much? 4 billion taxpayer dollars. You don't remember that? We must remember these things. So when you want to come here and pose you're going to be the Prime Minister, what is the benefit to your family now? Is he a
And yes, indeed, of course. And these statements are relevant. Forget those apologists for the PNM and those who want to defend the indefensible. You see, why is it that these statements are crucial and critical? And therefore, of course, quite apart from the fact that we already know that Rowley is a blasted rapist and a pedophile, and while we know, of course, that he's a rapscallion of extraordinary nature, because everywhere he went in the public sector, whether it be, of course, beginning at the National Quarries, the Ministry of Housing, and don't get me vexed before I play them, you know, agriculture, planning, everywhere he went is some bubble. But of course, the reason why I am, of course, saying to you that to dismiss those attempts to try to sanitize the unsanitary, the insanitary, whatever you want to call them, but of course they are the bane of the society. You see, because if Rowley and Al-Rari had their way, remember when, of course, they accused Kamla Persad-Bissessar of having a close tie with a particular company that got, of course, a transport contract with the government, and she stayed by them. And Rowley and they were, of course, vehement. They were saying that it was immoral. Then, and that's only one part. I will, of course, continue after this, because it's important that we understand the level of hypocrisy and the level of do as I say but don't do as I do scenario with these people. A bunch of criminals. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night to welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, pleasant night to you, Mr. Lennox.
A pleasant good night to you as well, my friend. Sorry for the tardiness.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. I thought you said tiredness. It ain't no time to get tired now, you know.
No. Tardy.
I just want to understand now, because you
some
see, as
people may not,
as the place get hotter, you have to let the candle burn on the boat end, you know.
I hear you, my friend. And we are prepared. Yes, we are prepared.
You can't.
You're energized.
You can't afford to give up this fight.
No.
Hear what?
So. Yeah.
Hear what? With that blue you have on there, not even a cutter or a bad I can't take care.
I hear you. And imagine the amount that cutter in the wrong places, you know, and that has focused on the corridor transformation, and of course attempting, of course, to stymie a program like this, and of course to attack, I expect, Lennox Smith per se, and not, of course, the message. But we understand that is PNM in full cry. But go ahead, my friend.
It complements your integrity and also your ability. You understand? To stay night after night.
Thank you very much.
Morning after morning, giving the people information. Right? So here's what.
Yeah.
Here's what.
Go ahead.
You hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead. Or just tell Mr. Digo Martin, you on the line. Go ahead.
No, the meeting it had today with Wayne Sturge, the lawyer, and the guy from Barataria. You know, they have a usual.
That is Saddam?
Right. And he was in this joint select committee asking the panel a question who were there concerning Petrotrin. I would like you to go, and if you could look at it and take out that part alone and show it.
Okay.
Right?
Are you saying that was part of the Sunday morning press conference? Is that what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good. I didn't have a look at it, but I certainly will. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
So stay strong with your contribution.
Yes,
man.
Thank you very much. Yes. And the Blue Yes will cut all Maljo and all, of course, enemy of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and of course those who are anti-patriotic. And once again, of course, the debt that Kamla was speaking about DEBT, but of course there's also DEATH. They are guilty of both death as well as debt. So I want to make the distinction. And of course, I hope that those CXC and of course C students are listening to, of course, why they may have similar pronunciation. They spelled they are spelled differently. Let's go to the line. Mr. Diego Martin, go ahead.
Good night, Lennox, and to all your people listening on to this program.
Yes.
We have to expose the LTT government, the lying, taxing, thieving. And we have many examples. Rowley for lying, and the rest of them for lying. The taxing, we just know they got tax free on how much jockey shows you wearing. And thieving, it is without a doubt the Auditor General has told us somebody pocket a set of money, and the procurement legislator has also identified 5 billion in procurement that is questionable. But the more important thing that not hearing, did you get invited to the Prime Minister farewell, spending our taxpayers' money with the meet and greet, the news, the media? Apparently he didn't invite you, he didn't invite Robert Amar, he didn't invite a lot of people. So we have to understand why he associated himself with those media personnel. Rex Chikalingo has been exposing them left, right, and center. And he has identified 2 newspapers who are basically sold to be the mouthpiece of the PNM. That is the Newsday and the Guardian.
Okay.
And I want to link. A lot of people would not be able to link it, but he identified, and the current major shareholder, Newsday, is also the major shareholder in an insurance brokerage firm called M&M. You know that, right?
Yes.
M&M has been enriched by the government for all tutor insurance claims and things like that. Tutor, everybody know from the inception was a PNM party group,
Yes.
And because of that, M&M gets
Mr. Mova, I believe it is. Just hold on. We have Mr. Diego Martin online still.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So M&M gets everything to do with tutor, and that is a lot of money. That is how the PNM finance that person.
Yes.
Enrich him. He buys out Newsday, and Newsday has become the mouthpiece. But more important, we are going to link you to something people are not aware. One of the senior manager of that M&M was the grandfather of the stepdaughter. You understand who is the stepdaughter?
Yes.
So the grandfather. So I'm showing you all the link. The mother of the stepdaughter was a major partner in Ernest & Young. That is why Ernest & Young does get all them contracts.
Oh, I see. And of course, she is the stepdaughter. Of course, is that of Young, whether past or Earthwide. All right. I hear you. Or Earthwide once was. So, okay, no problem.
So I want to show people that when you're in bed with the PNM, they look after you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people can't link that, but go back to the history and you will see.
No, but I mean, we have already done that because we are wondering, well, why Venezuela? And it so happens the many visits by Stuart Young, and this person is supposed to be a fugitive of justice, from justice in Trinidad. How come he has not been able, of course, to use the diplomatic, let's say, influences in order, of course, to effect at least the sending back, as we did when, of course, Rowley got wind from Maduro that there were people in Trinidad who were seeking asylum for one reason or another, and 84 of them were sent back on a military plane sent by Maduro. I suppose that the Trump administration will not forget, and thus, of course, Dr. Rowley's hasty departure.
I have two opinions about that, you know. One of that is stepdaughter might be inside there.
Yes.
But there's another issue. You don't want to identify the people he meeting. It's 2 sets of people can meet.
Well, yes. Of course, quite apart from that, but it is too curious to be a triple and quadruple and multiple coincidence. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
not to be part of a plan.
when you deal with sanctioned people, you basically in bed with them. But
of course, and there is no second guessing or no amelioration or should I say reducing of that association, because you would have done it conscientiously, and as a nation, at minimum, you ought to know, and you will be, of course, held to account for such.
All right.
Breach. Go ahead.
One last threat to send people imagination all over the way.
Go ahead.
You remember a fella by the name of George Chambers?
Yes.
He was the finance minister.
The man Dancy?
No, well, they say Dancy was smart.
Go ahead, yes. Ultimately, because he disassociated himself eventually from the PNM, so he's smart, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he was dealing oil too, oil and gas with Tesoro.
Yes.
But he wanted something else, not only 10%, he wanted, as they say, it in the SAS in America, and MP in 2005 have it on Hansard. He got 2 bronze. So, is it this man dealing oil and gas going down there for that too? You don't want to name, so we have to speculate.
Yeah, of course. We have to speculate with a high degree, of course, of logic and common sense.
You know, we have 3 speculation. One is he looking after his child down there. That do it again for
that's one, yes.
Country. The other one is the blonde. And the other one, you don't want to tell us sanction people, so we will continue to speculate.
Of course. And you can say what you want. And of course, quite apart from the fact that he is what I consider to be bad material for prime ministerial office. Yes, thanks very much.
He's a foul-mouthed person.
Yeah, foul-mouthed. You could everything associated with Rowley. All right, thank you very much. Of course, let's go straight to Mr. Mova. Thank you, Mr. Mova. Go ahead for holding on.
St. Anthony's, Uncle Lennox. St. Anthony's.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Uncle Lennox. Good night.
Good night.
Two things I want to touch on tonight.
Yes.
With regards to the Privy Council ruling with the matter with the Auditor General. Right? How it is the 2 independent institutions, which is the Director of Public Prosecution and the Police Service, how come it doesn't trigger investigation for somebody to be before the court for that large amount of money missing? You understand?
A wonderful question.
From the Treasury.
A wonderful question. But let me tell you this. If the shoes was on the other foot, Abdullah, there would have been some kind of strident call for such. Not that it is not being called by the UNC clearly, but it just goes to show that when you are in government and you are the PNM, you believe, of course, that you are above the law, and that those individuals, unless instructed, so to speak, whether directly or indirectly, even though they claim independence, they become they become lethargic. Let me put it that way. They can't move. They like very thick tulum or molasses. They can't move.
So it have anything legally that anybody could do to make these institutions accountable for that situation? What take place?
Well, the best we can do, because I mean they are totally responsible. The DPP is responsible for all criminal matters. I had the unfortunate experience where, of course, I caused someone to take Noel Garcia to court for, of course, invading, or should I say, evicting him and larceny of his worldly possession, furniture, etc. After they put him out in an apartment on Piccadilly Street. And guess what? After 2 or 3 hearings, Garcia never attended. The DPP suddenly got involved. Henderson was the DPP at the time. He's now, of course, I think a judge, if not an appeal judge. But the fact of the matter is that he sent it to the magistrate and tell the magistrate in a private matter, because we couldn't trust the police. So we brought him up under a different piece of legislation. And guess what? the DPP intervene and say to dismiss and withdraw that matter, and that was it. So that's how powerful the DPP is as far as criminal matters are concerned. So the extent to which he doesn't have investigative powers, he has to rely on the police. But certainly, if he writes to the commissioner and tell the commissioner that this thing merits, of course, some kind of investigation, and indeed, I'm sure that the police commissioner will have to oblige, having regard to the responsibility of the DPP. But of course, that none of that is happening, and therefore one can assume that, of course, they are in the back pockets, if not the front pockets, of the present administration, having regard to all what we have seen so far in terms of the breach of the rule of law.
And you imagine these people in the DPP council reject this claim outright and tell them don't give them
why it is the Minister of Finance in this case was not, of course, investigated as well. Why not? How come the minister who is being accused, his office is being accused of the absence or the disappearance of $3 billion on the revenue side, and of course on the expenditure side $1 billion, and he can of course institute an investigation whether the people involved integrity are unquestionable or not. That is irrelevant. There must be some objective mechanism, and you are quite right, and therefore that must be in the criminal domain to find out what has happened there, and therefore the DPP ought to take the initiative. But we are seeing none of that happening.
So, and we have a law association quiet on these issues.
Matters, yes. It depends therefore on you and I. You and I must now, of course, find ways and means, attract the international attention, etc.
And next thing I want to touch on and all too, right? I don't want to single out one particular people. I want to talk about in general with the illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
These illegal immigrants in the country, illegal,
yes,
undocumented, and working in certain places, them putting a real strain on this economy. All wrong. You look at the crime, lack of jobs, everything. These people them putting a strain on this economy.
Yeah. And I want to add, very good point, and I want to add that the genesis of it is really Rowley and they attempting, of course, to deflect attention away from themselves, having regard to their infringement under normal circumstances from a prima facie perspective, from the face of it, trying to get away and trying at the same time to get in the graces of the PNM after they would have committed the presence of Delcy Rodriguez here, the 82 persons that of course were sent back on a military plane to Maduro. We don't know if they are being persecuted and punished and of course being subjected to the most egregious type of pain and ache and mutilation. And of course, his conduct as far, Trinidad and Tobago's conduct as far as the OS is concerned under Trump, of course, when of course Trump had asked through, of course, his Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to of course, to fall in line. OS must fall in line and of course follow the leader of the USA. Rowley and they, of course, instructed our representative at the OS to abstain from voting. So I suspect all of those factors that will be looked at when, of course, Trump comes in. And that is why Rowley is, of course, making a hasty departure from the office of Prime Minister.
All right, Uncle. Thanks, sir.
Yes, man. You see, these conversations, people, of course, lead to other issues that could clear up. Other issues that may not be directly connected to the question and the issue, but it's important, of course, those of us who have the knowledge must be able to make the nexus and therefore generate what I consider to be the logic and the connectivity and the nexus to, of course, certain actions that are being taken by this government. So when your questions come in, we are able, of course, we must be able, of course, to reference other areas to show a pattern of behavior that is logical, and that, of course, the veracity of what we are saying, the sincerity or the truth of what we are saying cannot be questioned, because you would have been comprehensive in terms of your analysis. So that is why I take the time to, of course, reference and, of course, regurgitate and also look at past events to bring into the narrative or the discussion, so that you are able, of course, to better address the problem that may have been directed in the form of a question to the program at any time. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Pleasant good night, Mr. Lennox.
A pleasant good night to you as well, my friend.
And pleasant good night to the right-thinking citizen of this beloved.
Yes, indeed.
Mr. Lennox, I now listen to the last caller.
Yes.
But they always have to remember that this administration, with this leader that we have here, I always just say it, he weaponized every independent institution against his opponents and against the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And now he take one step further, and now he weaponizing against his own people in his own party.
That's right.
So when he was doing all the unjust, like he's still doing, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, his people who were supporting him didn't see nothing wrong. Now, it turned on them now. We handling them like there's nobody, because there was never nobody to him. So when you watch the Amy Brown and you watch the Penelope Beckers and who went under his stewardship and feel they will get any opportunity to lead that party in any form or fashion, that was never even an idea in his mind. So all with again now, I have to say, without fear or no apology, so to speak,
yes,
I'm loving it. I like how he kicking the PNM people in the face. I like how he kicking the PNM supporters in the face. And I want him till he leave office, kick them in the face, because them ain't see nothing wrong with this devil that we have here, that we trying we uttermost best to eradicate and investigate and bring him to account for all that he did to this country in the last 9 years and counting. So that it take with again. It now start. Right now he want to run a whole. He want to mash up. Remember me and you talk this?
Yes.
He want to mash up the PNM. So when he done, the PNM is no more. And the only thing he wanted to do, when he and Stuart Small Pinyon plot, was Small Pinyon was always his Gary Sobers, which was always an insult to Gary Sobers. But he wanted him to get the same salary. So everything concocted and properly well orchestrated to trick his people in his own party, trick the citizens, and do what he had to do to get out. Yeah. But I will keep saying it, he would never spend that money, that alleged money that the thief, and to make, and the little extra money that they're paying, or where they want to get this big salary and this big pension, to make people feel like they need money because they ain't have nothing. And yes, we know as the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that they thief money like rain in this country for the last 9 years and counting.
In fact, 4.
Yeah. The camera guy, we no more. We're reading them like a book, and we're not listening to the Guardian, we're not listening to the Express, we're not listening to the Newsday, because that is fully controlled by the People's National Movement, so they can go to hell with that. Mr. Lennox, you have a blessed night.
Same to you. Of course, people, let me say categorically that we need to be brief, a little brief, because of course calls upon calls, and people are in the waiting line, and I don't want, of course, to miss any opportunity. I will, of course, do a summary after all. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Mr. Lennox Smith. Calling from Canada.
Oh yes, good night to you. Good night to you. Is it Is it colder now, or it is? You are getting a little relief.
No, it's okay now. I hear you clear.
All right, okay. I'm talking about the cold. Is it cold there? The weather I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, these days it's cold right now.
All right, okay, all right. Go ahead then. Go ahead.
I called to say I agree with that last caller, what he was saying.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree to him.
Yes. Because, of course, it's a bunch of opportunistic political parasites who, of course, have been committed to stealing our funds, our resources, stealing from the treasury, and therefore, of course, should not have been in government in the first place. In other words, it is a kleptocratic group of individuals.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you very much for your call and your contribution. So that was from Kaina, yes indeed. Beautiful. That is as short as one could be. I think that is a minimum short, but there could be a maximum short of a little longer, but not much more. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, hello.
Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor, San Fernando.
San Fernando, yeah.
Yes.
That caller that asked that question with the Auditor General, that was a very good question.
Yeah, okay.
No, all you have to do is to look at how email gate went down, and you're quite right.
How what went down? How what went down? How what went down?
Yeah.
What
email
went down?
gate.
Email gate. All right. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Right. Now remember when it was on the other foot. The shoes was in the other thing.
Yes.
You found Kamla, and the woman really did show up and say, okay, listen, give up my computers, whatever, and it went down. Right? A whole long investigation went down, which proved Rowley to be wrong, and Faris Alwari and all of them. But
yes.
No, you're quite right in saying also that the shoe is on the other foot now.
Yes.
Right? And now they will drag their feet on this issue with the Auditor General. They're dragging the foot on it.
That's right.
They will.
And as the caller rightly said, it appears that there is a implicit, or should I say, an amorphous, is in the script. You can't describe it, but it appears that there's a conspiracy among these office holders to, of course, protect that which ought not to be protected because it is guilty like hell. But go ahead, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to make one more suggestion.
Yes.
It's a suggestion, really.
Go ahead.
I think Mr. Faizabad was hedging on that last night.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, let me just put it across this way. The program is picking up momentum.
Right.
And it will get more hot.
Right.
Right? What about, this is just a suggestion. What about if you team up, I think Mr. Faizabad last night was kind of heading to that. But not just with the UNC, but all the people like PC and Heavy and yourself and Andy could get together and have like maybe on a Sunday, right? One program for about 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever.
Well, you are built on what he suggested, because he was looking at, of course, bringing the UNC Monday night and the pavement limes and so on our platform, and in a sort of collaborative way. I'm sure that he is listening, so he would, of course, further explain. But I think you are hinting to have a sort of a multiple but common singular platform, maybe a day, when, of course, we can talk to each other, talk to each other, and, of course, invite you to, of course, be on the program, something like what we are doing here, but not a corridor per se, nor a TC per se, nor a observer per se, or a ground report per se. Is that okay? Great. Okay.
Yeah, it's like that. Where the whole of Trinidad, because each one of you guys have a following.
Yeah,
right
have
now.
a following. I agree. So all the followings, all the various followings will now be focused there on that particular program because their favorite, let's say, talk show presenters are together. I agree with you.
Yeah. Right. So this is my contribution tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend.
Okay. All right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I was making the point earlier with respect, and of course that I think that triggered all of these different positions that people would have had, and that is the shoe on the other foot. You see, because I started by saying that, of course, the Rowley administration, the PNM, is culpable of very atrocious and what I consider egregious political and non-political, in fact, criminal acts. And criminal here means, of course, the abuse of office, corruption, nepotism, cronyism, all of which, in my view, are inimical, of course, to their oath. But let's go to the lines one time. A pleasant good night to welcome. Where you calling from?
Good night.
Where you calling from again?
Apache here from New York.
Where you calling from?
New York.
New York, right, good. So New York is go ahead, New York. Yes.
Yeah. I heard you were talking to a lady up in Canada if it's cold. Well, down here real cold. In fact, it's snowing.
All right.
Yeah.
I was asking if it was colder, really, because I know that
it is.
It gets perpetually cold, yes. All right, okay.
Yeah, very, 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 very cold. I don't know the year we ain't get something like this.
All right.
Trust me.
Wow.
Trust me, I tell you, no. You have to put on sometimes if you're going out. People might say exaggerated, but
I've always had a problem that you have to go inside to get warm. Because when you're outside, you're like in a deep freeze. I've always had a problem with that.
Yes, no. Actually, that is true. Especially,
I've always had a problem with that since I visited, of course, the United States and other places that has this four season cycle.
I have a son living up in upstate New York, in between close to Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Believe me, when I go up there in the winter time, especially I spend a lot of time up there. I love the salmon fishing and things.
Okay.
Believe me, I talk about. You just really feel the coldness. And there, you could, I talk about really.
I don't think I could survive in that. I
you see, listen, the thing is that if we just say bundle up. If you bundle up good, you have a good pair of nice socks. Your foot, most important thing is your socks, your foot and your head.
Okay.
Your heat, you know what I mean? But once you bundle up, I'll be saying, you wouldn't feel it that much. Trust me, you wouldn't feel that much.
The winter clothing is crucial for
either
enjoyment or not being subjected to the what I consider to be the inadequacies of such a climatic condition.
And Lennox, I always tell people this: even if you come here and you come on vacation or whatever in the winter time, always remember this. Put on extra layer of clothes.
Yes.
You can take.
I had that problem.
Take off.
I had that problem when I first went.
Put it on. Don't worry. Put it on.
And listen, and mind you, the reverse was the case. You know, when I came back, I have on these clothing designed to, of course, keep out the cold. And when I reach back, I'm sweating like hell.
It'll happen. No. It does happen. It does happen. One time, Lennox, I know if anybody ring, you can cut me off. Anyway, one time, Lennox, I was doing I do, development construction or whatever. Right. One time I was doing a construction upstate New York.
Okay.
And you know those aluminum ladder? Not like the ladder what they buy, not like what the ladder they buy.
Yeah, very light, but could be extended, and very manipulative,
Smart me went on with bare hand, I went and hold on the aluminum ladder.
Oh my goodness.
This is serious, and my hand actually stick on.
I couldn't really imagine.
To the ladder.
As if it's a bout of current, electricity.
You better believe it. I'm not exaggerating. But listen,
I could imagine
it happens. It happens. Look, people say, oh, you don't feel your ears. And it's true, sometimes you don't feel your air.
Yes.
It happens. especially if you're working outdoors.
Yeah, and you ain't pay no mind. I had some experiences the first time.
Right. Well,
I
if
see
you've
the
been here
sun
and
hot.
experienced it,
I saw the sun hot. I was invited, of course, to the University of the American University in Washington.
Yeah.
And so the Professor Bennett, he took me to his office. So I saw bright sunlight outside. So I decided to run outside for some reason. Boy, the place cold like hell. I said, what the hell is this? How I seen sunlight and the place cold?
Yep.
Then I had to revert back to my geography and so on in order for me to understand the seasons and all of that.
Pneumonia.
Yeah.
I go show you I go show you something. I see which trend and we don't appreciate.
Caller, just hold on. Just have a caller from the United States and then we'll continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. I will just leave you with this one, quick and fast one.
Go ahead.
We don't appreciate the fishermen in Trinidad and Tobago. And you see the Ministry of Finance, they're really nasty, I could tell you why.
Okay.
Or the fishery department.
Okay.
If people know the headache, the time, the effort, the chances, the weather they'll have to be there for, the danger of them fishermen they'll be facing, especially on the East Coast.
Yes.
Because all the Atlantic Ocean, right?
Right.
In the Gulf of Paria, I think you still have shaded.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, brother. If you know how dangerous it is for them fishermen to go out there, and if you know when you get wet out there and that breeze starts to blow, it's colder than the winter here.
Wow.
Trust me, because I just go fishing. Okay. I have done it already. Anyway, Lennox, have a good one.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, why, of course, that kind of conversation, the C students and the CXC students must understand, of course, the change in climatic conditions, of course, and I'm sure they know about, of course, the equator, the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn, and what happens, and the so-called traveling of the sun, and why is it Christmas as opposed to when it is winter, etc., etc. So that's the direction in which, of course, I would normally entertain these kinds of discussions so people appreciate, because normally you read it but maybe they don't not understand it, but when you get practical, of course, experiences as outlined on the program, you then get a better appreciation so that it sticks in your mind, and when, of course, exam time comes, you will know that at a certain time of the year when the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer, for example, it is summer, and when, of course, it is winter is when the sun is over the Tropic of Capricorn south, and therefore, of course, in the north there is, of course, winter time at that circle, the Tropic of Cancer. But that being as it may, that is enough geography. Let's go straight, of course, to the caller. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Where are you calling from?
San Fernando.
San Fernando, of course. Go ahead. But I'll call you San Fernando too. Go ahead, San Fernando, because I know this is not San Fernando one.
Right, bro. Right.
Yes, but go ahead.
No, what I want you to do for me.
Yes.
Yeah, what I want you to do for me, Silanox.
Go ahead.
I would like you to pronounce this. I would like you to pronounce this in the proper manner.
Go ahead.
Right? Is it Balize or Balige?
Well, I think it's Balige, but I mean, we have a dialect, and therefore we say Balize. Balize.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Now hear what? I a bushman, right?
Okay.
I just been in the bush planting garden.
Okay.
And the Balize, I will say the Balize is not an easy thing to cut down.
Right.
You don't cut it down. You have to dig out and put it to dry.
Mm-hmm.
You don't leave it in a heap. You put it to dry and you burn it.
Mm-hmm.
Or back. And I want you to tell all those mapipi that is on your chat to go back inside the Balize patch. Right?
Right.
A famous historian once mentioned.
Go ahead.
He said, even though it's a beautiful flower, it bears no fruit.
It's true. It's true. And it looks a lot of danger within. You will agree with that?
Have a blessed night.
Yeah, my friend. Thank you very much. Yes. And looks within, of course, a lot of danger. So, of course, it bears no fruit, and therefore, of course, I think is an adequate and apt, of course, description of Rowley and they have borne no fruit for 10 years. Borne no fruit. And yet, of course, people, and I believe that some of them may want to eat it because they talk about Balize juice, etc. Well, of course, some may say happy riddance because you could certainly poison yourself. And I'm sure that a large section of the population, let me put it that way, wouldn't mind. Because, of course, it means, therefore, you would be, of course, doing us a favor, having regard, of course, to the danger and the incompetence and the impotence and the established and well-defined incompetence of the Rowley administration and, of course, its intent to destroy Trinidad and Tobago in more ways than one, relegating us, of course, to what is called they say that is a dying state or a failed state or a banana republic. All of those terminology, Trinidad and Tobago, gosh, under Rowley, and they will not call election. They will not call election. They know they go to sleep. They have a conscience. But yet still, they will come and coalesce and shake each other's hand. They alone have defined their own reality. While Rowley is attempting to get out, but cannot escape unscathed. That's for sure. But let's continue. Oh, yeah, I was making a point about, of course, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and this, of course, dichotomy, this, what I consider a contradiction, this hypocrisy that is, of course, the Rowley and the PNM administration. Again, all of them. And therefore, we must, of course, have a unanimous disposition, even though, of course, there are those, because the devil has its, I consider them imps. I don't consider them disciples. They're imps. Of course, and that has been so from time immemorial. So let us not waste time, whether in heaven or whether, of course, in human experiences and, of course, interaction. But the point I am making here, to saying all that, is to say that the PNM itself, as an entity, must be relegated to the dustbin of political history, because no one, whether Hines, whether it be Young, whether it be Rowley, whether it be Penelope Beckers, and any one of them, they have, of course, developed over the years this arrogance of being, of course, always in government. And people like what is the PNM. I have to make the distinction, because take Rowley, take Hines and they, and put them in the next party, and nobody fart on them. So there is some nexus between tradition and culture and so on. That nexus has to be broken. And the young people, that's the point I'm making, the young people have that responsibility to tell Granny, listen, this was once upon a time. These people has no locus standi in the contemporary Trinidad and Tobago. Look where they have brought Trinidad and Tobago, and you must know the facts. You must know the pellucid evidence so as to make your argument. And the argument is, they could say what they want. The fact of the matter is that they met, of course, over $10 billion in reserves, and it is now down to about $4 billion. They met, of course, the Heritage and Civilization Fund 5, and it ought to be by now in the vicinity of about $10 billion if they had not, of course, withdrawn from it, which was not supposed to be. And indeed, the debt trap that they have put Trinidad and Tobago in, over $90 billion US are talking about, that they have, of course, borrowed quite a part, of course, from the unfortunate, and should I say, the ill-fated projects, whether it be, of course, the Sea Bridge, whether it be, of course, the highway to nowhere, whether it be the purchase of the Neelan Massey communication for over $200 million, or whether, of course, it is a Train 1, and the spending of that amount of money, 200 billion, seems they have a fixation with 200 billion, and, of course, the collapse of the highway to Point Fortin, that part that fell into the sea or into the swamp below, when they told us, of course, that they are efficacious, that they have been there before, and that, of course, and when we look at the history, I will bring the history, because the more I look at the record of Eric Williams, it is no different to what is happening today with Rowley and they. It appears that it was all about camouflagery, deception, in order, of course, to stay in government. That is what it was all about, and to do us evil. including Eric William, even though just as Rowley, they had a philosophy that suggests, one, that of course they are a black man party, two, that of course they are prepared, of course, to do the right thing for all of Trinidad and Tobago. And it has turned out that there has been, of course, a den, an abyss of corruption, nepotism, cronyism in their own interests, their own aggrandizement. And then still having issued pain, ache, agony, distress to the country, they then, of course, claim somehow that they have not done it. They have not done it. I don't know if you want to call it miraculously, or you want to call it enigmatic, or you want to call it devilish and evil, diabolical and wicked, that they will conjure up, manufacture in the form of what I consider to be cacophonous babblings and ambulatory verbalizations that has no relations with the advancement of Trinidad and Tobago and, of course, the people therein. Let us not waste time. And therefore, I say all of that to say that when, of course, Kamla Persad-Bissessar was accused of going to stay by a friend who eventually or ostensibly got a contract, Rowley was talking about that incestuous relationship. And it was indeed a storm in a teacup. Because when, of course, her sister was recruited to assist her, Rowley was vexed. Today, he bring his family, immediate and extended family, in, of course, the diplomatic center, and he doesn't want anybody to talk about it. In fact, he says that, listen, everybody knows what I'm entitled to. So Kamla wasn't entitled to that. And then, of course, to see in others that which is in them. Al-Rawi goes to the parliament and tell the parliament, and therefore you and I, by extension, listen, Kamla Persad-Bissessar family got HGC apartments because he wants to spread the culpability of abuse of office, nepotism and corruption. Just of course, just as how we know Rowley, people connected to Rowley are in apartments HGC, just as how we know that people connected, of course, to the Minister of Tourism have people in, of course, HGC accommodations. Just as how we know of Daryl Smith and his use of the resources of the ministry to which he is attached to, of course, pay his licentious, what I consider to be proclivity or propensity. They went to the parliament and said Kamla Persad-Bissessar's family got housing. You know, after they threatened him to put him before the privileges committee of the parliament, he come back and say, no, it is not so. In other words, I lied. I lied. Just as the email, as somebody said earlier, and the role of the DPP in all of this, the deputy DPP, in a sense, giving Rowley a lifeline when he should be, of course, being charged for treason. Treason for making statements that caused, in part, a government to fall back in 2015. That is what we are facing here. So therefore, on the face of it, we must have no doubts. Our ambiguity must not be part and parcel of our consideration. There can be no ambiguity. It's a bunch of con men and con women that have, of course, commandeered our highest offices, public offices, and has performed egregiously, destructively. Egregiously, destructively. That's what they have done. That's what they have done. So they see in others that which is in them. And to deflect attention, as we are seeing now with respect to why the SOE, another iteration of deflecting action against them, so they feel, by the population, and even went as far as to say, even in a SOE, the police locking up their stations to hide from the bandits. And of course, that much, those who are sympathetic to the PNM couldn't take from within, of course, the bosom of the police. So they had, of course, to tell Rowley where it is. But that does not take away, it does not obfuscate, it does not, of course, make us in any way comforted. We must not relent, in other words, and we must tell them as it is, because they are evil, diabolical, and they have been the curse and the bane of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's continue with Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
Financier? Is his brother a financier?
Yes, indeed.
Any family member a financier of the PNM? And so it's $4 billion, taxpayer dollars, your dollars, not theirs, $4 billion. And that further, in my respective view, marks this man, Stuart Young, as a very dangerous pick for public life, since taxpayers' dollars will not be safe under his watch. Let's move along. Young, who is also a member of the oppressive eater food elite of our country, has recused himself from the cabinet how many times? Recused himself from the cabinet how many times? Over 101 times. Do you understand why you recuse yourself from a meeting of the cabinet? Some of you do, and if you don't, let me explain, because it's very important. It means that you have a conflict of interest of the decision being taken in the cabinet. There's a so you step out, but here it's a revolving door. So he walks outside, the friends and family and the MPs sit down there, the 12 of them who vote for him today, they sit down inside that cabinet and say, yes, go ahead with that contract. Go ahead with whatever it is. Go ahead. He runs back inside, sits down in the cabinet, the door spins again, and Farris walks out. And then again, they sit together and they say, yes, agreed. This building approved, that contract approved. That is a revolving door. This whole cabinet is sucking this country dry, and we must make sure to vote them out. We have to vote them out.
And let me tell you this. In any self-respecting democracy, let me repeat, in any self-respecting democracy, while of course once could be a mistake, no self-respecting democracy waits for two. But let's assume you give them two. Then 3 times is a habit. 100 and something times. Rowley alone, from the last information we have, he recused himself 12 times. 12 times. Rename, of course, Landate, give it a different name. And then, of course, is benefiting, just as his Minister of Finance, Imsbert, from the building, the high-rise family apartment building that he has constructed in Woodbrook. Rowley is doing the same on Landate now. And no taxes to be paid until 2025, I believe it is, or something like that. No taxes. We're in 2025 now. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure that they will, before they leave, they will extend it, the non-payment of taxes, as they have, of course, accepted and endorsed the SRC or the Salary Review Commission's recommendation. It's greed upon greed upon greed upon greed. And they have accepted it because it is available. It's just as Rowley doing us evil, imposing taxes because he can't do it. And thus, any reform of our constitution has to deal with the examination of those who put themselves up. And we, the people, must be critical in our examination of the people who vie for office. Either they must be tested, or their track record in public life or in social life or in what I consider to be in interventions prior to getting into office. In the PNM, you just have to join, full stop. Where's the track record of this fellow called Young? Where's the track record of Rowley in serving anybody prior to just joining the PNM? Where is the track record of Hines prior to serving anybody? On the other hand, we have Kamla Persad-Bissessar, use her legal prowess to assist the poor people. Pandey the same. And all of them who are connected to the UNC is somehow they would have had, whether it be Wade Mark in the labor union, who, Jolene Chan, she was able, of course, to mobilize young people, who again, anybody. But in the PNM, you simply have to be loyal to that amorphous, that criminal enterprise. Keep your mouth shut. Eat your biscuit. We are going to share the spoils of the population, and that is good enough. And we understand where the genesis is. Of course, it was generated by the circumstances coming out of the 1986 elections. A bunch of conmen and opportunistic political parasites. So we understand. But of course, morality is about right and wrong. Character is about your sense of right and wrong. Personality is about how people see you, and therefore will determine if you is a backside, if you is a fool, if you are egregious, if you are hostile, if you are obnoxious, if you are narcissist, if you are egotist, etc. As a result of that, and certainly that has no place in Trinidad and Tobago if you are any of the recently, of course, examples that I would have drawn. How you could be an egotist and a narcissist and be the Prime Minister of this country? You see, when dishonorable people seek honorable office, the only outcome can be dishonorableness. And Rowley is the quintessential, as well as the entire cabinet that he has amalgamated, that he has put together. And Short Young, Penny, and all of them are no exemptions. None. In fact, they are examples of what ought not to be. All of them, you will see, is connected to eating from the nectar of the treasury of Trinidad and Tobago. That's the only way they make their money. An opportunity to get rich, to rub shoulders with the shakers and movers in the society, and then, of course, to acquire power to decide who must eat and who mustn't eat. And if you are not so inclined to them, like me, for example, they try their best to emasculate, they try their best to erode, because we are talking, of course, for the masses of the people who would be, of course, displaced and robbed of the little. I had a read of course, Selwyn Kojo's, I believe, recent article, and it made a lot of sense, even though if only philosophically, because the philosophical underpinning of the PNM is actually to have the workers in the society, the working class, the underclass and the low class move up, so that you have a very huge middle class. But he was highly critical, and he said that, of course, Rowley betrayed the principles of the PNM when he said that he would want to promote the rich And as the rich get richer, the poor is expected, of course, somehow to find their own way and to also, of course, improve their circumstance. And he said that is hogwash. And no social scientists and no economists advance that, because he said in all certain terms that those who are of the capitalist class, they find their wealth, they get their wealth off the backs or on the backs of the working class and the lower class, and no room for the working class to advance themselves to become, of course, part of the middle class at minimum, if not the upper class. And therefore, the term 1% is apt, is appropriate, having regard, of course, to the conduct and the philosophical and, of course, the betrayal, as Kojo said, by Rowley. And this is a different PNM and must, of course, be marching towards extinction. Extinction, with, of course, the implantation, with the imposition of a fellow like Stuart Young, a total neophyte and nincompoop, a failure. And mind you, he got senior counsel. Rowley has no shame. He has senior counsel, and he says that because of the oil deals that he pursued, that is why that is his greatest achievement. One would have expected that your achievement would have been what you did in private practice, not when you were government. Suppose you weren't in government, you could have never get, of course, SC then. That is what this backside is telling us. But let's go to the lines. Pastor, good night. Welcome. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, I'm Mr.
Yes.
Me again.
Yes, go ahead, my friend.
All right, here it is. Here it is. No, I have a son in MIC, right?
Yeah.
He's going to graduate soon. So my problem right now is when he graduates, how is he going to get a job if there is none?
Caller, where are you calling from just now? Hold on, caller. Just tell me where you're calling from so I can tell you. Hold on. Hello?
Hello?
Caller?
Yeah. Diego Martin.
Just hold on. Where are you calling from?
Diego Martin.
All right, Diego Martin, please hold on. Please hold on. We have another caller on the line. Go ahead, sir.
Sure.
Right. I'm gonna come off in a while. Here what? Where is he going to get a job? Where is he going to get a job? Because he's going to be qualifying in a while. The thing about it is this, right? If we don't get rid of what we have here right now, right? According to the old people, right? They say that one bird in your hand is better than 100 in the bush. You understand? And one thing I admire at those who are on the chat. You see how important and special you are? They are taking your rubbing off on them because they are starting to use very highfalutin words like you.
Great. All right. Well, you know, in teaching, you know, you prepare lesson plans, and then you at the end of the day you have an outcome. I suppose that is the outcome.
No, you ain't only talking to people, you know, you educating at the same time, because I'm seeing a lot of individuals who are messaging and they're using a lot of, you know, characteristic words and stuff like that.
Oh, beautiful.
So you have a blessed night again, Mr.
Yeah. I don't look at it because I don't want to be distracted, you know. Maybe in my leisure time I will take a look at the chats and so on. But I don't want to be influenced by the chat. So that is good to know that people like you are monitoring. Miss Santa Cruz is good at that as well.
But here what? Don't forget the clip with Saddam Hussein. What I tell you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll look at it tonight. I can't focus on it now. Yeah, but thank you. Yes, indeed. All right. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Martin.
Yeah. Go ahead, Diego Martin.
Good night. Good night.
Go ahead. I don't know if to call it Diego Martin 1, 2, 3, or 4 because there's so many.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter because so much elements inside Diego Martin. It's all that I see here.
Yes.
But anyway. What I want to contribute tonight is a very educational program because you see, when we have people using as the last caller called it big words. It's not really big words. It's because they now realize and they come into this awakening that wait, something wrong here 10 years, because you remember the only time these people normally wake up is when it's election time.
Yes.
All the time they just sleep and ignore the facts right in front of eyes. But
Mr. Tagariwa, hold on. I have Mr. Diego Martin on the line. Go ahead, Mr. Diego Martin. Yes.
The picture that you have up where you see he family getting a lot from the government, because that's what all of them, the ministers, basically reap the fruit or the labor from the nation, and the people don't really see it. Or it don't really affect the people, it don't trickle down. So with that being said, people need to come to the realization that the only option you have right now is to really get out of this chaos, because yes, regardless of a politician you put there, obviously they will make sure that the family is well off.
Yes.
Right? But if you're making sure that your family well off, what about your nation too? If you neglect the nation, then what you're doing is just basically taking care of home. It can't be like that when it comes to politics or politics. Right? So you can't be stingy with it then. At least let it trickle back down into the little average citizen too. You know, so don't watch thief and ball, all of them thief. No, it's not all of them thief. Some of them thief and actually dedicated themselves to the nation, to the betterment for all, not just for themselves. Right? With that being said, I'm just saying good night.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. Oh, loud and clear. Yes, Mr. Tagarigo, go ahead.
Hey, good night, boy.
Yes. Yeah, loud and clear, my friend. Mr. Santa Cruz, just hold on. We have Mr. Tagarigo on the line. Go ahead, Mr. Tagarigo.
Watch. One of the smartest men in this country is Faris Alwari.
Go ahead.
Even smarter than the handful of them.
Hello?
Ms. Santa Cruz, hold on. We have Mr. Tagarigo on the line. So just hold on.
All right, no problem. Go
ahead, Mr. Tagarigo.
Yeah. Faris come here and he tell them he's a direct descendant of the prophet.
Muhammad.
And he fight war in the Middle East.
We're not hearing Tagarigo.
And watch men disappear in front of him in glaciers. And they swallow that.
Right.
And they make him Attorney General.
Right.
Right? And he said, you see that? Imagine this here and I tell these people and they swallow that. Exploit them till I get all what I want. And he pull it off.
Even though, of course, he stayed longer than most people to get his body big.
Yeah. And he outsmart all of them and he get all what he wants.
Yeah.
So if they could have believed that and make him BAG, say she's a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, because I remember in one of the meetings in Belmont, when they would normally have their post-budgetary meetings, the PNM that is, and I think I remember it very distinctly. Heinz used the word discombobulate. Of course, it means to confuse and so on, confusion. And he said that, of course, that is why he liked to, of course, associate with Heinz, because, of course, he's brighter than him. But lo and behold, he got the position of Attorney General. So you have a point there.
I show you. Well, a man could pull it off like that.
Yes.
So you have to appreciate, you have to admire him.
Yes. But of course, but those things don't last, and therefore, of course, it is temporary. Yeah. So personally, yes, for him, he has achieved. But of course, at the end of the day, it may just evaporate, like, of course, what some people say, a fart in the wind. I hear you. All right, we have a lot of more people on the line. So,
all right, hello.
Okay, yes, bye-bye. Caller, tell me where you're calling from, and hold on, because we have Miss Santa Cruz. Caller, tell me, where you're calling from, so I can call your name after, your residential name afterwards. All right, caller. All right, okay, that person has hung up. Okay, Miss Santa Cruz, go ahead.
Lennox, good night to you and to everybody out here.
Yes.
You're real busy tonight.
You
come on late and you're real busy tonight, Lennox. But it's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because everybody has been calling me, Lennox not coming on. Anyway, Lennox, it could have been about 4 years ago, when MP Saddam Hussein filed for the freedom of information, it was 560 recusals. So I am absolutely sure it's over 1,000 now. 1,000 recusals because they're so greedy. They're so greedy. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until their pockets and their bellies are overflowing.
Cruz on the line. Hold on.
Their bellies are overflowing, Lennox.
Yes.
Right? So they are. But I sent you a recording. Somebody sent it for me.
All right.
Between a conversation between Stuart Young and the media. And he is telling them that they have never lied. He has never lied. The PNM has never lied to the media about anything.
Oh my goodness.
Lennox, you see how these people have no shame?
Yeah.
You see how they have no shame?
Is it a audio, a video, or a newspaper?
No, it's an audio. I said it. I will look and see. I'll look and see if maybe it got lost in other things.
Right,
so I'll send it back for you.
Sure. All right, good. Okay.
Lennox, you will have a good laugh.
Yes.
Imagine this man lied and said that when Kamla and them, before Kamla and them left, they destroyed the facial recognition scanner so that their criminal friends could come through the airport free. You remember Gary Griffith coming on the ground report and saying, as Commissioner of Police, that there was never any facial recognition scanner.
Yes.
Right?
And they bought cheap, ineffective, inefficient cameras that didn't have those qualities. But go ahead.
Right. No, he also lied to the media and said that the partnership government spent 65 it was about $65 million or something like that, and only did 3% of the work, right, on the highway.
Yes.
Lo and behold, at the Joint Select Committee, we heard they spent $3 billion and they did 65% of the work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He lied to the media again. All along they keep lying. And the biggest lie that Stuart Young and Rowley told the media was Delsey's visit. They lied that they didn't know who was coming, they didn't know that the plane was sanctioned. They didn't know the people that was coming, how long they were coming for, and they just dropped in for a visit. And we all know that's a big lie. When you are coming to visit a prime minister, regardless of the hour, you're supposed to let them know all who is coming.
Yes.
But you see, Lennox, they could continue lying for how long they want, but it's going to happen. It must stop. It must stop. And Lennox, before I leave, I want to tell Amy Brown, it's good for you. It's good for you, right? Yeah, it's good for him. Yeah, and you're still bowling like Penny, Penny. What they for party, they support the party. Well, then look at what that's just to show you, Lennox. They sat down in a cabinet with over 1,000 recusals. They saw Stuart Young brother being made a billionaire banker, his father a millionaire, and they said nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's just to show you they don't care about the country. They only care about party. And as all the political analysts and them are saying now, they are trying to get rid of all Manning supporters. Well, I hope Manning supporters and them open their eyes and see what is going on, how Rowley has destroyed the PNM. And let me see if they're going to, if they're not going to kick against what it is they did to Amy Brown. Although I don't mind, let them fight it out. But you see, the thing about it is, they want to point fingers at the UNC and when the PNM is rotten to the core. Lennox, take care and have a good night.
Same to you, my friend. Of course, you have given us a mouthful there, but of course, let me see if I could quickly, of course, before we go back to that video that is at the back of me, clearly, of course, as she rightly said, Amy Brown has withdrawn, of course, his candidacy from the Diego Martin West because, of course, no party group supported him, one. Of course, he gave no reason except to say that he reconsidered, and as a consequence, of course, on advice, he withdrew. So he didn't tell us where and what the advice was all about. That being as it may, of course, I think out of the 20 or 21 party groups there, and none, of course, as I said, support him. But, of course, there are other persons that the party groups support at various, what I consider to be numbers at various levels. That, of course, that's an internal matter. But in terms of good for him, I mean, here it is. One would have thought that Rowley would have endorsed and would have, of course, give sanction to that. But clearly, he clearly went on his own volition, hoping that Rowley probably might have made an input. Because I'm certain, if Rowley had made an input, I'm sure that he would have been the person preferred. But he has now find himself in the very embarrassing position, having gone out front, initially saying that he has no interest, and then, of course, some formal letter went, of course, to the chairman of the constituency, asking them to accept him for nomination. That being as it may, of course, she raised a number of other issues as well that I think requires, of course, some kind of examination. The fact of the matter is that this government has demonstrated a macabre and a proclivity, a propensity to, of course, undermine the democratic processes, undermine the rule of law, and, of course, have no respect, I think, which is important, have no respect for constitutionally protected institutions. You hear what I say? Have no respect for constitutionally protected or insulated institutions. And we are clear in our minds, whether it be the Police Service Commission, whether it be the principle of the rule of the separation of powers, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, and indeed the media. We have seen, of course, the media being subjected to the most egregious, the most embarrassing, the most, what I consider to be, excoriating attacks. The vitriol cannot be contemplated or regurgitated in one session over the years. But Rowley has the audacity, the temerity, the gall, and the effrontery to ask him not to forget him. Of course, suggesting in his own mind that in a positive light, that damn fool, you have done all that evil and expect people to remember you in a positive light. That is the level of illusion and delusion. The man is a sociopath. I keep saying that. A serial recidivist sociopath. Over and over and over recidivism. And yet still will come in people's faces as if he did nothing wrong. But Trump will be in from tomorrow. And we will see the true reason for him resigning earlier than, of course, he would have liked. Because it is clear, all the indication did not suggest that he was going to resign. How the hell you going to want to resign? And you tell us, of course, a document was being prepared, signed, to have what? To have CARICOM observers, nobody else. Because he doesn't want anybody else. That, of course, anti-democratic and anti-free and fair elections advocate as Prime Minister. When, of course, as opposition leader, he sent, of course, 21 reasons why he would like, of course, not only CARICOM, but also the Commonwealth Secretariat to come here in 2015 as opposition leader in order, of course, to monitor our elections under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and went on to say in it, most despicably and most criminal, continuing, of course, with his betrayal of the country, and, of course, must be subjected to the highest, what I consider to be, penalty in criminal law, treason. as he delivered those fake pieces of paper called emails in the parliament. Oh gosh, Rowley is a wicked man. And it is habitual. It is pathological. And we must not just not forget, but we must, of course, make them pay. This is a democracy. And Rowley and they must not arrogate unto themselves that somehow they have the right to do us that kind of evil without penalty. There must be retribution. And I say so without fear of contradiction. And I say so with a high degree of commitment and dedication to same. These are criminals. And that is why I said that is the kind of character, the sense of right and wrong, and personalities, don't matter how much constitutional change we may have. It is about the character of the individuals that we put in office. And the record of the PNM is one that speaks to scampishness, speaks to chicanery, speaks to brinksmanship, because they have the ability and it is at their disposal. They will implement, of course, taxes upon taxes, having, of course, wasted with the greatest degree of profligacy. And I want to conclude, of course, before we start back with, of course, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, what Ms. Santa Cruz said, with respect, of course, to their projection, their illusions, their lies, their mendaciousness. It is called, of course, in clinical terms, mythomania. Spontaneous liars. Mythomaniac. A set of mythomaniacs. Because, yes, she was correct when she said that it was misinformation, disinformation, deliberate lies about, of course, OAS and that highway to Point 14. When, of course, they claim that more money was spent than, of course, work done. And it turned out that when OAS, the company that was, of course, contracted from Brazil and was, of course, introduced to Trinidad and Tobago by the previous PNM administration under Manning, and Rowley, he knew. But then he made the excuse that of course, the company was bankrupt, and so, of course, he had to take action because they were looking to clear out, to create the story, like how he created the recent story with respect, of course, to the police and hiding from criminals. That is the nature of the beast that we have as a man who has held the highest executive office in this country. We have to be collectively mad. And he continues, of course, to deliver that kind of what I consider to be criminalistic analysis and delivery. But let's go to the line before, of course, I will continue and deliver after and conclude afterwards. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Yes.
And good night to everybody who's on the chat. And
yes.
Good night, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Mr. Lennox, listen now. You know, today I was looking at the press conference, the UNC press conference.
Yes.
And listen now, man. To my great surprise, I saw Saddam Hussein show a clip where in the Joint Select Committee, listen now, Lennox, the man asked a question in that Joint Select Committee. You know, nobody can answer the question. Them take about almost a whole minute. The place was so silent, if a straight pin drop, everybody can hear them when that pin drop. Because they had no answer. And the man asked a very pertinent question concerning the finances of Trinidad and Tobago and where the money go on. You understand? It was about disposal and things like that now.
I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look. I have
yes, take a look at that. If you take a look at it and keep showing it to the public, this is something very, very serious. And another thing is, which happened is very clownish. The PNM supposed to be a black man party, and they end up with a Chindian. You understand? So now we have a Chindian, right? I don't know who the black man party